My friends, isn't what is happening now in the depths of the Israeli Ministry of Defense a response to what happened? It's the death sentence for any attempt at a balance of power in the Middle East for the next 10 years. If you believe that the era of large conventional armies was left in the last century, the Israeli government has just committed 350 billion shekels to prove you wrong. This isn't an off-the-shelf purchase. It's the birth of a doctrine where defense has become irrelevant because the goal now is the total incapacitation of the enemy before they even think about attacking. Pay attention to the sound of silence. While the world discusses diplomacy in air-conditioned rooms, the turbofan engines of the first F-35 Adir are already warming up in Nevatim on red alert, on standby. Israel is not just buying planes, it's buying the ability to make the sky of any adversary an extension of its own territory. And what you're about to see now is the dismantling of the idea of symmetrical conflict. From today on, either you accept the will of Jerusalem or you are wiped off the map before you even hear the sound of the impact. Is this massive investment that raises the defense budget to levels never imagined before a recognition that the post-October 7th world demands more than just intelligence? Does it require raw digital muscle? Israel is doubling its fifth-generation fleet to ensure that the long arm of the IDF can reach any target at any depth anywhere on the globe. But to understand why Israel is going to double its fleet, the fleet of the most powerful fighter jets in the world, you need to understand the origin of the problem. But now subscribe to the channel, turn on the notification bell, leave a like on the video. It takes a lot of work to bring all this to you. For you to understand why Israel decided to spend billions to build a force the world has never seen, you need to understand the mind of the person on the other side of the board. Forget the shallow political analyses you see in the mainstream media. Forget it. Between Israel and the Ayatollah's regime, it's not about borders, it's not about oil, and it's definitely not about a dispute between left and right. Pay attention to the core of the analysis you see in the media.
A destruição de Israel.
Or in a world of eschatological transition, because within the radical Shiite vision and the forget it.
A aniquilação do pecado.
That's in the media. An absolute condition for the reappearance of the Mahdi. But who is the Mahdi, Shimon? Well, the 12th Imam. For them, the Mahdi is the Messiah who will bring the final judgment and the ultimate victory of Islam over all nations. For radical revolutionaries, speeding up the doomsday clock is not a geopolitical risk, like it is for us in the West. It's a divine mission. They don't seek military victory to govern better, they seek the end of history. They believe that by setting the region on fire and destroying Israel, they will be forcing God's hand so that the Mahdi reappears and establishes the global caliphate. Israel understood this before everyone else. Maybe Trump understood it almost too late, but what they are learning is that you don't negotiate with those who believe that their own destruction and the destruction of their neighbor is the path to paradise. When you face an enemy who sees doomsday as their greatest hope, conventional deterrence dies. That's why negotiating with Iran is the biggest waste of time. And so Israel's new doctrine isn't about stopping attacks, it's about erasing the capacity to exist. Israel realized that Iran is not a classic military adversary, but an apocalyptic sect armed with ballistic missiles. And against a sect that wants the end of the world, the only possible response is a force so overwhelming that the end of the world comes for them first. Surgically, invisibly, and definitively, and that perception changed everything. Before October 7th, the idea was to have a lean army focused on technology and artificial intelligence to deal with terrorist groups. The attack showed that against an ideology of annihilation, you need more. You need scale and you need a destructive capability that leaves no room for interpretation. The 350 billion shekels are the price of survival against an armed prophecy. Israel is building a war machine that not only wins battles but also invalidates the enemy's theology through absolute technological supremacy. You must have seen the headlines. Israel is going to double its fleet of F-35s, 15A, but why now? Why invest in billion-dollar jets when $1,000 drones are saturating the skies? The answer lies in a concept that the Pentagon calls operational darkness. Israel realized that October 7th was not a technological failure, but a failure of scale. The smart and downsized army almost collapsed in the face of saturation. What you're about to see now is the complete reversal of that logic. The state of Israel is returning to brute force, but with a digital brain that no country on earth except the United States can process. Imagine a ghost carrying an anvil. Well, the F-35 Adir is the ghost. To understand where the 350 billion shekels went, you need to stop looking at the F-35I as a plane and start seeing it as an invisible combat supercomputer. The I suffix in Adir is not just a letter. It represents the only time in history that the manufacturer Lockheed Martin allowed a foreign country to open the black box of the original software to install a proprietary defense architecture. Israel installed its own C4 system, command, control, communication, and computing. This means that while other F-35s depend on slow updates from the United States, the Adir communicates in real time with the OFEC spy satellites and the Arrow 3 missile batteries, creating a neural network where the fighter jet can detect an Iranian missile launch even before it crosses the border. Now let's get to the data that keeps Iran up at night. The Adir is powered by the Pratt & Whitney F-135 engine, the most powerful single-engine fighter jet engine on the planet, capable of generating 43,000 pounds of thrust on its own. This allows this beast to reach a speed of Mach 1.6, almost 2,000 kilometers per hour, while carrying tons. The magic is in the range. With an internal combat radius of 1,100 kilometers, it would theoretically need to refuel to reach Tehran. However, Israel has developed disposable external fuel tanks that don't completely compromise stealth, allowing the long arm of the IDF to reach Iranian soil. With the support of the new KC-46 Pegasus tankers, which act as armored fuel stations at 50,000 feet. But what defines a war is the capacity for destruction, and this is where the Adir is bipolar. At the beginning of the mission, it operates in stealth mode. All the weapons are stored inside internal compartments so that no metal surface reflects the waves from the Russian S-400 radars. In this mode, it carries 2.5 tons of smart bombs. In this mode, once the enemy's air defense is blinded by its electronic warfare, the SQ-239 Barracuda, which hacks the enemy's radio frequencies and injects false targets onto their screens, the Adir goes into beast mode. It opens the external mounts on its wings and jumps to a brutal payload capacity of 8 tons. We're talking about AIM-120 air-to-air missiles to clear the sky and the jewel of the Israeli crown, the spice bombs. Unlike regular bombs, which rely on GPS that Iran tries to jam all the time, the spice uses electro-optical receivers. It reads the terrain and recognizes the target building from its image, making it immune to any electronic interference. The pilot doesn't even need to aim in the traditional sense. With a $400,000 helmet integrated into the system, he looks through the floor of the plane, locks onto the target with his gaze, and the infrared targeting system, the EOTS, does the rest. If the enemy fires a missile at him, the plane detects the heat, launches countermeasures, and suggests an escape route in microseconds. It's almost absolute technological sovereignty. It's the end of the radar era and the beginning of the era of lethal invisibility, and in theory everything sounds great. Yes, the IDR would be almost invincible. But in the last war with Iran, we had reports, we're still waiting for more data, that an F-35 had been hit. Not shot down, not destroyed, but somehow hit. Later, I'll bring more information about this damage if it really happened. Now, if the F-35, the Adir, is the invisible scalpel that opens the door, and it literally did that against the Ayatollah of Iran, the F-15IA is the 14-ton sledgehammer that brings the house down. Israel didn't invest billions in 50 new Boeing fighters out of nostalgia. They invested because the F-15IA is today the most capable air superiority fighter. While the F-35E needs to hide, the F-15IA enters the battlefield to dominate with brute force. Equipped with the new General Electric F-110 GE-129 engines, it reaches the astonishing speed of Mach 2.5 over 3,000 km/h, allowing it to cross the Middle East in record time, carrying an amount of weaponry that no other jet can handle. The real strategic reason behind this purchase is what we call persistence. The F-15IA has 12 certified hardpoints for air-to-air missiles, and it can carry up to 25 air-to-ground weapons simultaneously. We're talking about a 2,000-pound laser-guided bomb with a penetrating body made from a repurposed howitzer cannon. It is capable of penetrating more than 30 meters of earth or 6 meters of reinforced concrete before detonating. The F-35I locates the entrance to the ventilation duct or the structural flaw in the Iranian nuclear bunker using its infrared sensors and illuminates the target. The F-15A, positioned at a safe altitude, drops the hammer. It's a lethal symbiosis. The invisible points, the indestructible destroys. In addition to the explosive payload, the F-15A carries the APG-82 ASA radar, the most advanced in its class, which allows it to track multiple targets simultaneously at distances exceeding 200 kilometers. It acts as a heavy escort for the F-35I, ensuring that if any enemy fighter tries to approach the stealth fleet, it will be detected and shot down before it even knows it was being monitored. Israel also required the integration of the EPA.WSS electronic warfare system, which creates a digital shield around the aircraft, protecting it against new generation surface-to-air missiles. Now understand Jerusalem's long-term vision. By doubling the Adir fleet and upgrading the F-15 fleet to the AI standard, Israel created a two-layered strike force. You have 100 ghosts mapping and blinding the enemy, followed by 50 new anvils ready to drop hundreds of tons of explosives on deep targets. The range was extended by conformal fuel tanks, which do not occupy the weapon pylons. The advanced F-15A, for example, can fly from the Negev to the Zagros Mountains in Iran. Fight, destroy the target, and return without needing to stop. It's not just about buying planes. It's the acquisition of a geopolitical life insurance that ensures Iran's nuclear capability can be wiped out in a single night of coordinated operations. And that's not just a theory. This is happening right now. Israel is acquiring its 4th squadron of Lockheed Martin F-35 Adir jets, totaling 100 aircraft. Having 100 F-35s is not just about having a lot of planes. It means that Israel now has 100 invisible sensor nodes that communicate with each other in a neural combat network. In practical terms, an F-35 flying over Damascus can spot a missile launch in Tehran and relay those coordinates to a tank in the Negev desert in microseconds. The enemy radar becomes just a decorative museum piece. The F-35 doesn't evade the radar. It deceives it, it saturates it. It creates false targets until the real missile has already hit the bunker. It's the end of the conventional radar era. Israel is investing in a combat architecture where data is the most lethal ammunition. Each of these 100 fighter jets is a flying command center that integrates information from satellites, drones, and ground agents. This software integration, my friends, was developed locally by companies like Elbit and AI within the American systems. That's what creates the technological gap. To give you an idea of the global scale, look at other operators. Let's go. The United Kingdom currently has 138 F-35 fighter jets. Japan has 142, Italy 115. And Australia 100 Israel, a country with a tiny population and territory compared to these giants, now matches Australia in the number of fifth-generation fighter jets. This makes Israel the global per capita leader in the use of the F-35, and it's not just about the number of planes, it's about experience. The Israeli F-35 has already surpassed 15,000 flight hours in real combat on all fronts. And not even China comes close to that. Missions in Yemen, Syria, Lebanon, Gaza. Israel even modified the F-35 to fire JDAM munitions from its wings, something that wasn't in Lockheed Martin's original design. This allows the fighter to carry a heavier destructive payload when full stealth isn't the primary requirement, but precision is. While Turkey was expelled from the F-35 program for insisting on the Russian S-400 system and Egypt operates aircraft from previous generations, Israel is leaping into the future. Saudi Arabia, despite its immense wealth, does not have the software autonomy that Israel possesses. This ensures what the Pentagon is calling a qualitative military edge. Israel needs to be able to defeat any combination of regional enemies simultaneously. And with 100 F-35s, they're not just maintaining the edge, they're changing the nature of the competition. It's a preventive checkmate. My friends, the 350 billion shekel budget isn't just for what's flying inside our atmosphere. The Shield of Israel plan calls for the full integration of the Air Force with orbital capabilities. We're talking about low-orbit satellites that turn space into the new battlefield. Israel is preparing for a war where the first shot happens in the vacuum of space, disabling enemy communications and navigation systems before the first jet even takes off. And here's where the strategic turning point comes in: the acquisition of the new KC-46 refueling planes. A KC-46 is a flying gas station that extends Israel's reach anywhere on the globe. Without it, Israeli fighter jets need to land or rely on allied bases. With them, Israel's strike range becomes global. Iran stops being a long-distance mission and becomes a nearby target. The KC-46 is what transforms Israel's air force from a regional defender into a force capable of global power projection. But Israel's shield goes further. The package includes replacing the old heavy transport helicopters with the new CH-53K King Stallion. They are capable of carrying troops and equipment with unprecedented speed and payload. And there is a bitter lesson from October 7th. Israel reversed the decision to retire the Apache attack helicopters. Now they want more units. The modern battlefield has shown that close air support and the ability to maneuver quickly on the ground are vital when AI technology fails to detect human infiltrators. Netanyahu vaguely mentioned that Israel could go back to producing its own planes. This is an echo of the failed Lavi project from the 1980s that almost broke the country's economy. But why bring this up now? Is Israel signaling industrial sovereignty? They don't just want to use American technology, they want the freedom to modify it and produce it if the global situation changes. It's a direct warning about autonomy in a world where alliances are volatile. Israel is buying time and technology to ensure that in the next decade there won't be a symmetrical conflict. Now look at the map and feel the geopolitical tremor. Turkey, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia are watching this rearmament with a disturbing silence. Historically, Israel's supremacy was maintained by the almost legendary quality of its pilots. Today, it is maintained by a technological gap that no one in the region can bridge so quickly. Turkey, a regional power with a rapidly growing defense industry, sees Israel's expansion as a direct challenge to its influence. Ankara is investing billions in its own industry, trying to achieve parity that the F-35 has now made impossible. Egypt, in turn, has conducted recent training exercises in Sinai, a clear sign that it is monitoring the rise of Israeli power. Although there is a peace treaty, the scale of Israeli rearmament, which includes the new CR-6 corvettes and state-of-the-art submarines, is forcing Cairo to rethink its own defensive posture. Saudi Arabia, another giant in the region, although it has invested billions in American systems, still depends on Washington's approval. for sensitive technologies that Israel already operates, modifies, and integrates into its own combat neural network. Israel is signaling that in the next decade there will be no symmetrical conflict. The concept of smart military qualification has been elevated to the status of dogma. Israel needs to be able to defeat any combination of regional enemies simultaneously. And with or without the F-35 and Adir, they are not just maintaining the advantage, they are changing the nature of the competition. It's a preventive checkmate. Israel has decided that it will not wait for the Mahdi. They have decided that they will dictate the pace of history through digitized brute force. My friends, what happens in Tel Aviv doesn't stay in Tel Aviv. It impacts your cost of living, the security of trade routes, and the balance of power that keeps the world running. Understanding this shadow game is the only way not to be caught off guard by the system's next move. The Shield of Israel plan is proof that peace in this scenario is only maintained by the fear of what those 100 F-35 Adir fighter jets can do in a single night. And the question that remains for you who follow real geopolitics is this: is the unprecedented arms race the last resort to avoid the Great War, or is it the fuel that will finally ignite the powder keg? Israel has decided that its survival is non-negotiable to ensure that no apocalyptic prophecy becomes reality at the expense of its people. That's why more than 3,000 subscribers already fund our intelligence bunker. That's where we reveal what censorship tries to hide here, where we analyze the machinery of war and how each defense contract impacts your real life. Well, the QR code is right here on your screen. The links are in the description and in the first pinned comment. Click and come check out our bunker. And for you who decided to go underground and support this independent intelligence that allows us to understand the world and wars, comment now Dominio if you understand that sovereignty is conquered in the sky before it is secured on the ground. And for those of you looking for a refuge from this bombardment of information but want to keep your values intact, we've created a new channel for series and movies. Yes, it's already live. It's a space without woke culture, whining, or agendas. Only with movie recommendations featuring powerful epic stories and series for you to enjoy with your family, bringing back the culture that really matters. For you to relax, rest your mind, and really enjoy a bit of our culture that was once so wonderful. But our movie and series channel is right here in the card, in the description, and in the pinned comment. Now we're bringing some series that talk about the war in the Middle East. The Mossad operations, the CIA operations, how intelligence works behind the scenes. The series have already predicted it. Alright, it's cinema, it's fiction, but a lot of things there, folks, are taken from real life. Including one of the most enigmatic series to come out lately, a series that's available on Apple called Deterrence, which shows exactly the Mossad, the Israeli service, operating inside Iran. The producer died mysteriously during the filming that was underway at the time. So go ahead, go check out this story. Well, shield your mind, I'm Shimon Oliveira, and I'll see you in the next video. Until then.